So, Andrew, what's happened in the last month, keeping in mind that in that time we've had a leadership challenge in the Labor Party?
Well, Barry, the last month's polls are the same as the previous month's polls. There's been no change. The ALP's primary vote is 33, the Coalition's is 46, the Greens are on 11, and that translates to a two-party preferred vote of 54 to 46 in favour of the Coalition over the ALP, which is about a 4% swing against the government.
OK, the Better PM ratings now, what's happened there?
Well, there's been a small change in the Better Prime Minister ratings. Since November, Gillard led Tony Abbott by about 3 or 4 points as the Better Prime Minister, but in the last month that's come back a little bit and she currently leads him 38 to 37, just the 1 point.
OK, let's look at satisfaction ratings and we'll go all the way back to the last election and then see what the story has been since then.
Well, if we look at Newspoll satisfaction ratings since the last election, it tells a very interesting story for both of the leaders. Following the last election, Gillard was slowly building her standing with the electorate and she achieved a peak satisfaction rating of 48% in February last year. Then the government made the announcement that it was going to price carbon and her numbers slid dramatically, and that continued right up until the middle of the year when the government actually made its carbon pricing policy announcement. Then her numbers stabilised, they slowly started to improve, but then in September, following the High Court decision which went against the government with respect to its Malaysian solution, her numbers dived again. They then increased towards the end of last year, but then this year, with the difficulties she's had, most importantly the leadership challenge, her numbers have taken a tumble once more. Tony Abbott's numbers also tell an interesting story. He also peaked at 48%, but that was immediately following the 2010 federal election. Ever since then, his numbers have been on the slide. He did get a peak of 41 in the middle of last year when the carbon tax issue was at its most intense, but ever since then he's basically been on the slide once more.
So essentially you have a situation where the leaders of both major parties are in difficulty.
Yes, that's right. They're like two swimmers in the surf. Gillard keeps trying to get somewhere, but every time she gets her head above water, another wave comes and dumps on her and sends her to the bottom of the ocean. She really is looking for some still water in which to swim so that she can progress a little. Tony Abbott, on the other hand, appears to be caught in a rip. It doesn't matter in which direction he thinks he's swimming, he keeps getting pulled back in the same direction, and that's under. I think he too is looking for some less turbulent water in which to swim so that he can progress a little.
So is it unusual to have the leaders of both parties falling out of favour so quickly with the electorate?
No, it's not, and this is the disturbing point. Both Kevin Rudd and Malcolm Turnbull had similar experiences. Kevin Rudd, you'll recall, had satisfaction ratings of over 70%, yet he ended up in the mid-30s before he was deposed by his own party. Malcolm Turnbull had satisfaction ratings of over 50%, yet he slid into the 20s before he settled in the mid-30s, and then he was deposed by his own party. So what we've had is the four most significant political figures of this generation of parliamentarians all starting with good satisfaction ratings and all ending up with poor satisfaction ratings, and in a very short period of time.
But why is that? What does it tell us?
Well, what it tells us is that the clever political strategies that the parties love to employ for their leaders do not impress the public and aren't clever at all. Perhaps they should listen to Hugh Mackay when he says that what voters always want to hear from their political leaders is, let's hear your dreams for a better Australia.